Have you ever paused to consider the uncanny architectural similarities between ancient cultures that were supposedly isolated from one another by vast oceans, thousands of miles, and centuries of time? Isn't it curious that mainstream science and archaeology rarely, if ever, confronts these similarities head-on? Why doesn't mainstream science talk about this more often? I mean, it's so obvious when you stand back and take a look. It's staring us in the face, and yet the professionals are not really talking about it. And let's start with the most obvious striking examples. Let's take a look at the pyramids. For example, the step pyramids are found in ancient Egypt, pre-Columbian Peru, and even Cambodia. In fact, we have pyramids all over the world. And these aren't small, vague resemblances. We're talking about massive, geometrically sophisticated structures built in layers often aligned with celestial bodies and constructed using techniques that modern engineers still marvel at. Is this just a coincidence? Or could it suggest a deeper, more interconnected human past? Mainstream historians might argue that pyramids are just the simplest way to stack stones high, but that doesn't explain the uncanny engineering precision, the astronomical alignment, or the spiritual significance embodied in these monuments by cultures worlds apart. Another strange similarity is this. Take a look at this. This is the trapezoidal doorway. These doorways were found across a few different ancient civilizations. However, it's strongly associated with the Incas, pre-Columbian Andes, and also across the Egyptian civilizations. And we see this in Machu Picchu in Peru. Many of the doorways and windows are trapezoidal, a hallmark of Inca engineering. The wider base and narrower top helped resist seismic activity in earthquake-prone regions. So it obviously makes sense why this type of structure was used. We also have it here in Peru at Sacsayhuaman. The massive fortress above Cusco has trapezoidal doors integrated into Cyclopean stonework. Ollantaytambo in Peru, doorways here in temples and palaces are trapezoidal, often with finely fitted stones. Again, in Tiahuanaco in Bolivia, pre-Inca monumental site where same structured doorways and openings influenced later Inca design. Then we have across the other side of the world, the Egyptian architecture. If you take a look at the old kingdom and temples, some false doors and interior passages show the same narrowing door structure. While less pronounced than in the Andes, we still see them in entrances. Across Europe, we have the Mycenaean and Minoan structures from Greece and the Bronze Age. Here we've got the treasury of Atreus, which is a Mycenaean architecture, monumental doorway, slightly trapezoidal, topped by a relieving triangle. We have the Minoan palaces in Crete. Some entrances use tapered door frames, creating a trapezoidal outline. Other examples also found across in Turkey, where we have some city gates, such as the Hattusa, that uses a trapezoidal passageway framed in stone. We also have megalithic temples in Malta. Doorways often have the same shape carved into upright stone. So this is worldwide, guys. This is not just in 2 or 3 locations. We also have the same type of structure found in Petra in Jordan. Certain Nabatean structures use the same type of trapezoidal design here for their structures, and most of the trapezoidal structures are found in Incan and Egyptian architecture. It is clearly abundant that other ancient civilizations also incorporated this same design within their architectural monuments. What's most puzzling is that these ancient cultures supposedly had zero contact. So how did they develop such a specific architectural feature? It goes beyond just stylistic choices. It's a technical solution employed almost identically in different corners of the ancient world. Another compelling point of similarity lies in burial customs. The ancient Egyptians and the Incas crafted elaborate gold masks, used mummification, and positioned the arms of their dead crossed over the chest. Why? Why did they do that? Why were they expressing a shared spiritual belief? And how do we explain their near identical symbolic gestures? And then there's the mind-bending discovery that the Egyptian mummies contain traces of nicotine and cocaine plants. These plants were native only to the Americas. So how could they find nicotine and cocaine plants? How could they find evidence of that over in Egypt? As I said, these plants were only native to the Americas. These substances were not known in Egypt, nor do they grow there. So how were traces of nicotine and cocaine plants found in ancient Egypt thousands of years ago when those cultures had no contact? That's baffled scientists for decades. And there's several links and sources all over the internet for various articles. Just look it up, have a look, and look into this in more detail. If ancient Egyptians never made these transoceanic voyages, then how did these substances native to South America end up in their remains. But the connections don't just stop here. Let's explore the megalithic stone structures, because throughout the world, ancient sites reveal monumental megalithic structures built with stones of astonishing size and weighing dozens of tons. And these massive blocks were not only quarried and transported, but also fitted together with such precision that even a razor blade cannot pass between them. And across different regions, the stones often display strikingly similar features, distinctive tool marks, interlocking designs, and remarkably advanced cutting techniques. Many of these structures were constructed without the use of mortar, yet they've endured for thousands of years. Now, skeptics argue that ancient civilizations simply developed comparable building methods independently, which it sounds ridiculous. They're saying as if such knowledge were commonplace. It don't make any sense at all. But the similarities are so precise and widespread that it strains belief to suggest that cultures separated by vast oceans and time, sometimes separated by centuries, could have achieved such feats of engineering in isolation, particularly at times when they were not thought to possess the necessary technology. And even more striking, despite the advanced machinery and engineering today, replicating many of those ancient constructions today remains a formidable, if not impossible, challenge. Without, like I said, the use for modern tools, modern machinery, modern laser cutting techniques, it's not possible to create such incredible feats of engineering. So how did they do it thousands of years ago? And why is it so similar across multiple different sites? And we're talking cultures separated by continents. Without ships or communication technology, they shouldn't be producing such similar results. So what's the explanation? How are so many structures in the past so similar if isolated? How do you explain this? Even more baffling are the symbolic and artistic parallels, the all-seeing eye motif in both Egypt and Mesoamerican art, the reoccurring use of obelisks, the elongated skulls found in multiple regions, and spiritual motifs that appear in ancient pottery, petroglyphs, and even gigantic geoglyphs visible only from the air. And then we have what I call is the smoking gun that connects all of this together. Mainstream science and archaeology often present a neat, linear timeline of human civilization, one that stretches back around 6,000 years. Everything we discover is expected to fit into this framework. It's nice and neat, isn't it? But what happens if evidence emerges that doesn't align with this narrative? All over the world, we find ancient sites whose construction methods seem almost impossible by the standards of time. Monumental stones weighing tens of tons, precisely cut and assembled without mortar, aligned with astronomical events and decorated with sophisticated symbolism. Yet rather than rethinking the broader picture, these sites are often forced into the conventional 6,000-year-old timeline because it's the accepted story that we're told. And yet, there is the smoking gun, Göbekli Tepe. Discovered in southeastern Turkey, Göbekli Tepe is unlike anything we know from the ancient world. It was deliberately buried around 11,500 years ago, which means its construction will be much older, perhaps 12,000, perhaps 15, or even 20,000 years old. The age of Göbekli Tepe is open to interpretation. However, what's unquestionable is that it was deliberately buried 11,500 years ago. Regardless of the exact age, Göbekli Tepe rewrites our understanding of early human civilization. The site consists of massive T-shaped stone pillars, some weighing upwards and above 20 tons, arranged in circular enclosures. And these are not crude markers, they're finely carved, intentionally positioned, and decorated with exquisite reliefs of animals and abstract symbols. Amongst these carvings, one symbol stands out, and this is a motif or some iconography resembling a bag-like object. And this is where it gets intriguing. The same bag symbol appears at other sites, other ancient sites across the world, from Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica, from the carvings of the Sumerian gods to reliefs at La Venta in Mexico, across India, Indonesia. These bag symbols are found all over the world. So let's step back and consider. If mainstream archaeology acknowledges that Göbekli Tepe is far older than the supposed 6,000-year timeline, and if we find the same advanced construction methods and reoccurring symbols across sites continents apart, does it really make sense to assume that these civilizations had no connection? Or is it more reasonable to suggest that these structures, along with their shared iconography, belong to an earlier epoch of human history? Perhaps one linked to a common ancestor civilization, or at least a shared source of knowledge. The evidence suggests that these sites were constructed long before the accepted timeline. They employ strikingly similar engineering, astronomical alignments, and mathematical precision. They carry overlapping motifs like the bag symbol, which cannot be dismissed as a coincidence. To me, it makes far more sense that these civilizations either stemmed from a common origin or inherited their knowledge from a much older, advanced culture, one that predates the mainstream model of history by thousands of years. What do you think? Could the story of human civilization be far older and far more connected than we have thought or have been taught? And another thing while looking into this, which I found fascinating about our ancient past, is the fact that there is DNA evidence linking ancient cultures to places that modern science cannot explain. Recent DNA studies have revealed that around 30% of Native American DNA shows affinities with Middle Eastern populations, and that contradicts the conventional migration theory that suggests Native Americans came exclusively via a land bridge from Siberia. Even more astonishing, some South American populations show traces of Aboriginal Australian DNA dating back over 17,000 years, and that's left geneticists and anthropologists dumbfounded. One study from Harvard University confirmed these findings, yet admitted they have no solid explanation of how this could be. So how is it possible that we find Australian Aboriginal DNA only in South America, not in North America? Had these ancient travelers come from the so-called land bridge, their DNA traces would have been found in parts of Central and North America, but that is not the case. You can only find traces of this Aboriginal Australian DNA only in South America. Doesn't that suggest there was ancient oceanic travel between Polynesian, the Australian region, and South America? Unless humans were making long ocean voyages tens of thousands of years ago, there's simply no accepted mechanism by which these genes could have made their way across the Pacific. And these mounting anomalies suggest that the human history is far more complex than we've been told. Could it be that we're looking at the remnants of a forgotten global civilization, a seafaring culture capable of worldwide navigation, monumental construction, and cultural exchange? Have a think about it. Many ancient legends and texts speak of a lost advanced civilization. Plato called it Atlantis. Other cultures refer to it as Mu or Lemuria. Could the striking similarities found across ancient cultures be more than just coincidence? Could they represent a fragmented memory of a once thriving, highly advanced civilization, one that was wiped out by a global cataclysm? Many researchers now point to the Younger Dryas period, approximately 12,500 years ago, as a potential moment in Earth's history when a devastating event could have occurred. This is something I will cover in much more depth in another video in the future. But when we take a step back and consider the cumulative evidence, we have almost identical megalithic structures built with mathematical precision, sophisticated stone cutting techniques that all defy modern understanding. Symbolic parallels in art, mythology. We have similar iconography found in multiple locations on ancient megalithic structures, and unexplained DNA connections across multiple continents. Surely this points to credible signs of transoceanic contact, and it becomes increasingly difficult to accept the conventional view that all of these civilizations developed in total isolation. It's not fringe theory or pure speculation. These observations are grounded in real measurable data supported by archaeological discoveries, genetic studies, and comparative mythology found in cultures across the world. I'm not suggesting that mainstream science has everything wrong, of course not. Mainstream science and archaeology has done wonders. It enables us to investigate further and look into these incredible sites in more detail, and it enables us to answer more questions. But it also allows us to ask more questions about our ancient past, and those questions and investigations should be explored further. And it's becoming clear that some long-held assumptions deserve another look. The story of human civilization may not be a straight line from primitive to modern as we're so often taught. Instead, it may be a cyclical saga, an epic of great rise, catastrophic collapse, and gradual rediscovery. Like an ancient echo reverberating through time, we may be living in the aftermath of a lost golden age with only scattered traces left behind. Now, I'm not claiming to have all the answers, far from it, but when we repeatedly see the same patterns with spiritual iconography, near identical structures, advanced astronomical knowledge, and now even genetic links appearing in civilizations separated by oceans, continents, and millennia, shouldn't we be asking deeper questions? How were these feats of engineering achieved? What knowledge was lost, and why are we so quick to dismiss the possibility that our ancestors may have been more connected and far more advanced than we have been led to believe? The idea that all of this is purely coincidental is becoming increasingly untenable. Ask yourself, are we honoring the truth of our past, or are we just clinging to the comfort of narrative that fits neatly into textbooks? We owe it to ourselves and to the civilizations that come before us to dig deeper. These are facts supported by archaeological, genetic, and comparable mythology. And like I said, it doesn't mean all of mainstream science is wrong, but it does mean we may need to revisit long-held assumptions with fresh eyes and an open mind. The questions we should be asking are bigger than ever before. If you found this video interesting, be sure to check out this video of the Sumerians, a fascinating advanced culture who openly admitted their knowledge and advanced technology was not theirs, but was given to them by others. Be sure to check it out. I'll leave a link in the description in the video down below.